Well, thank you very much. For me, it's an extreme honor to be here as a representative of a public benefit funding organization to listen to your very fascinating presentation. So thank you very much for having me here. I will answer, Joachim, 3 questions by focusing on international collaboration in science and research. And for this, probably my most significant affiliation right now is my participation in a European high-level expert group on the current status of the research framework program of the European Union and the next framework program that we will see. Before I talk about that, let's talk a little bit about what science policy is in the very substance of it. It is, if we look at science, and Evine van Dishoek reminded us with a quote from Pope Benedict, science is about truth, the search for truth. Probably not long-lasting truth. Sometimes it's only the truth for a couple of years, and then there is a new paradigm. It's the search for truth. What is politics all about? Politics is about power. That's the essence of politics. And be aware, whenever science enters the field of politics, it is about power. It's no longer about truth. So if we talk about science policy, we talk about policy. What is science policy all about? Science policy focuses on knowledge production, and that is important if we talk about AI. Science policy influences the organization of science within a society. It is concerned with the allocation of funding. It's about money. It is about the balance of a perceived public and general interest and the interest of the science system. And science policy unfolds on a national, domestic level and on an international level. And this will be the focus of my presentation. And for that reason, there is one distinction that Joe Nye, a scholar of politics, a political scientist of Harvard University, made several years ago. He distinguished between soft and hard power. Hard power is the power of the military. It's the power of that the economy unfolds. Soft power is the power that you execute by convincing somebody, by being attractive to somebody to join you in your position. Now, let's focus on a number of megatrends that influence science policy today. The first one is the end of history, or the end of history and the return of great power competition. When the Cold War ended, we thought that the soft power of science was extremely successful because we were all united in one world and scientists collaborated with each other. There are internal drivers internally to the science system for international collaboration. A lot of international collaboration that you presented throughout the last 2 days were driven by the desire to share data, to collect data from different places in the world, by pooling funding because it's too expensive to just build several James Webb space telescopes or other big machinery. So there are internal drivers of scientific collaboration. And we thought that these internal drivers also contribute to international understanding and longer-lasting peace. We were mistaken. Let's look at the world today. We do see a Russian war of aggression in the Ukraine. We see wars in the Middle East. We see violent conflicts in Sudan, Darfur. We see violent conflicts in East Congo and other African regions. We see military tensions in the South China Sea. The soft power of science had to give in to the hard power of the military and economic interests. That is the truth of the day. And the second truth is that we might enter a new competition between great powers. Throughout this conference, we have not spoken about the United States and China. And there seems to be a power competition amongst these two countries and regions, and we might be forced to align with either one of these powers. However, there are mitigating factors, but let's be aware that power competition comes back. At the same time, we see a worsening climate crisis. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And so we have while there is power competition, at the same time, we have to pool resources in order to provide scientific knowledge for the health of our planet. Megatrend number 3, the rise of disruptive and generative technologies. We spoke a lot about AI. At the same time, what do we see here is that there is also a competition about who has the opportunity to use these technologies and who makes economic progress by applying these technologies. We do see that there is a rise of American and Chinese companies who develop these technologies, and we spoke a lot about participation and representation of other types of knowledge in this new world where we do see deep tech innovations that drive economic progress, and at the same time they are a source of competition. And last but not least, a major cross-cutting megatrend is speed. The change happens more rapidly than ever before. So science policy has to try to strike a proper balance between long-term interests of planetary health and short-term interests of individual nations to make economic progress. How does that translate into European policies? There will be a recommendation of the high-level expert group that I was part of, and it's going to be called Research, Technology and Innovation for Competitiveness. Is that pure economic interest? No, it's it's playing to the tunes of the current policy that there is a lot of debate in Europe about whether Europe is able to compete, number one, to produce new knowledge, number two, to use that knowledge for economic progress. And we realize in Europe that we fall behind, that Europe does no longer play an important role in the international division of power, and so there is a shift towards the application angle of science and research. Last but not least, how does that unfold in terms of geopolitics of science and research? The European Union now considers a country like China as partner, competitor, and systemic rival. The geopolitical frictions between China and the US, this is how our group wrote it, can partially be explained by two factors. Firstly, the rise of disruptive technologies and their growing importance for power, military, economic, political power. Secondly, a rather dramatic shift in the global distribution of scientific resources from democracies to authoritarian regimes and from the West to the East. Regarding the latter factor, China is the dominant force in both phenomena. While China's scientific rise has added tremendous resources to the global research enterprise of science, it is also challenging established systems, institutions, and norms due to its sheer size and government ambitions, but also its view of the relationship between science and the state. So how do we deal with this? We have to deal with countries that are partners, competitors, and sometimes rivals at the same time, and we have to develop policies to do all this. If we talk about international collaboration in science and research, what does this mean? If we address planetary health, we need international fora for scientific collaboration, no matter where researchers come from. There is no other way to address the challenges of the Anthropocene. Number two, competitors are competitors for technologies and economic progress. And research security is a new issue that unfolds where there are new restrictions, and we have to be aware that we have to define policies how to deal with these restrictions. And if we talk about systemic rivalries, there will be new barriers to academic and international scholarly exchanges that we will face, and we have to do whatever we can to, at the same time, establish personal ties that endure those new frictions. Thank you.